Please rise if you wish for the invocation and the pledge. Dear God, as we embrace the fresh and perhaps fleeting cool weather, our thoughts turn to the coming holiday events with family and community. We are grateful for the planning already underway for our traditional city holiday gatherings, as well as our coming recognition of the 30th anniversary of our incorporation. Thank you for these opportunities to gather and enjoy our community, building ties that serve us well throughout the year. As we consider the matters before us this evening, grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that we may make the best decisions for those who have entrusted us to represent them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Sell.
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Here.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Mayor Chazet.
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Here.
This is the special City Council meeting for the month of October. So we will have public participation on items on the agenda. Are there any deletions or amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as is.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. We move on to the first public hearing. Agenda item number 6. The city manager is requesting the City Council adopt ordinance number 11/2023, declaring and implementing a temporary development moratorium. City Attorney, would you read ordinance number 11/2023?
Ordinance number 11/2023, an ordinance of the City of DeBary, Florida, declaring and implementing a temporary development moratorium for a period of 9 months on the acceptance, processing, and consideration of applications for development orders and approvals for certain proposed developments and projects within and throughout the jurisdictional boundaries of the city, accepting and excluding developments and projects within the city's transit-oriented development overlay district, which district consists of approximately 261 acres and is located south of Dirksen Road on the east and the west sides of U.S. Highway 1792, running to approximately 210 feet south of Buckley Drive, and providing for non-codification, conflicts, severability, and effective date.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Stephen Babb, Growth Management Director. I will be giving the presentation on the temporary development moratorium, which is based on the review of our new land development code. First, let me go over the timeline. In April, the city entered into a contract to rewrite its much antiquated land development code. The previous code had been adopted from the county's code 30 years ago and needed to be reviewed. Since the time we entered into the contract, the city had seen the COVID-19 pandemic, the change of contracted vendors, and my position itself turned over 3 times. So it did result in a lengthy initial review. On September 14th, just last month, we received the first completed draft from our contracted vendor. What we will do now, or propose to do now, is to go into the review, adopt an implementation phase of the land development code. The first thing really is the internal review, where we have to consider various state and local land regulations, land development regulations, which may have changed since the initial drafting of this land development code, and also to build necessary processes to accommodate such changes and any new changes to the code. We also kick in workshops, which will include not only the City Council but also our citizens, to gain feedback on these codes. Land development considerations. For the timeline, staff recommends a 9-month moratorium on new development to facilitate complete review. This will allow all projects which are currently in review by the city to process under the previous or currently existing land development code. Projects within our transit-oriented design would be exempt from any type of moratorium, as the city conducted a similar moratorium in 2020 to write the TOD code. You have seen this and recommended on first reading to this moratorium to proceed. So today, the staff still recommends the City Council adopt the ordinance tonight, declaring and implementing a temporary development moratorium, which will become effective immediately upon adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public participation, City Clerk?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, Councilmember Sell, do you have questions or comments?
None at this time.
Councilmember Papalardo, questions or comments?
No comments.
Councilmember Stevenson, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin, questions or
Nope,
comments?
I'm good.
And I have nothing further since the last discussion. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 11-2023 on second reading, declaring and implementing a temporary development moratorium.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Under new business, item number 7, the city manager is requesting the city council approve the proposed DeBary Central Park Conservation and Recreation Concept Plan. City manager, are you presenting?
I am, Mayor. Just a second here, we'll get the clicker. Thank you. One of the things that we've been working on, obviously, for many years, which is about 4 years now, is our TOD master plan. So today we're talking about the DeBary Central Conservation Recreation Park, or for short, DeBary Central Park. So for the last 4 years or so, we've been working on a master plan, and this has been our master plan. And you can see there, all along, we've been talking about the possibility of one day creating a central park located in the center or in the C of the TOD. And as you can see there, we've already been calculating that. One by one with this master plan, we've been putting pieces together, the fire station, Alexander Island, and I think we're getting pretty close to putting all the pieces together that we have originally planned. And so one by one, we've accomplished all of those. So the actual parcel here that we're looking at is right across from the Sunrail station. This parcel was purchased by FDOT when they expanded I-4 in 2004. And it was given to the city, to the Volusia County, to manage this property. On this property, and as I'll show you, there's a conservation easement, so it can never be built upon. I know many years ago there was some controversy about this parcel, and we want to make everybody understand that there's no controversy with this parcel. There's a conservation easement over it, and it can't not be built. Okay, and so I just wanted to show everybody. Obviously, you see the DTC exchange. That's the 2.17 acres that we've entered into agreement with DeBary Town Center LLC. That's also coordinating with the Palm Drive property as well. And so this is, and through the center of this particular property is a Volusia County easement. They use this particular easement to get back to Mullet Lake. As you may recall, when St. John's Water Management District was doing some of their cleaning up of the DeBary Bayou, they were bringing the debris to Mullet Lake and then hauling it out through that Volusia County easement. So that easement there, it plans to stay and will always stay for the management of the DeBary Bayou. So on this particular property, as I said before, there is a perpetual conservation easement by the St. John's Water Management District. It's not DeBary's perpetual conservation easement, it's the St. John's Water Management District conservation easement. And there's also a land management plan by Volusia County, since they own the property, of the entire DeBary Bayou. And the entire DeBary Bayou is not only the 98 acres here, but all the property between there and I-4, including Gemini Springs and the Gemini Springs Creek, et cetera, that goes out to Lake Monroe. And so there's significant amount of documents in here that protects this property from never being developed, both by St. John's Water Management District and by Volusia County. This is the recreation plan that was designed by Volusia County. We were working with Volusia County to possibly build some trails in this property for the enjoyment of residents who can walk through there, walk through the trees, et cetera, et cetera. Even though they never submitted it to the land, to St. John's Water Management District to adjust the land management plan, but we were working with them to create these particular trails and also access back to Mullet Lake for one day, creating a kayak and canoe launch at Mullet Lake there. So in working with this particular process, we call the Volusia County City DeBerry Exchange Agreement. The process is pretty simple. Well, it's not simple. It involves 3 different agencies. It's never simple. But we've already communicated, and the county's already communicated with the St. John's Water Management District that the St. John's Water Management District staff has verbally agreed with the transfer ownership of the 98 acres from the county to the city. They recommended that we amend the recreational plan in the perpetual easement and also in the land management plan. So that it reflects of what both the St. John's Water Management District and both the county and the city all agree on what that recreational plan should be. And of course, the recreational plan are all conservation-related activities. There's no pavements, pavilions. There's the trails are all dirt. The bike trails are all dirt, et cetera, et cetera. The parking lots are shell. So everything, it doesn't affect that particular property. And so, of course, our recreation plan that we're about to show you will go to the county and then to the St. John's Water Management District to amend the land management plan. And then that will be approved by the St. John's Water Management District Board to adjust the land management plan. So the provisions of the agreement, and I had approached, even though we've had this in a plan, we were always looking for that opportunity. When is the right time to do this exchange? And I think right now, politically, it's a great time to do this exchange. The county is looking to dump expenses. They're trying to reduce their ad valorem rate. They're trying to reduce expenses, and I think the time is right to offer this particular offer. We had a meeting with George Reckenwall and his team, and they were all believe that this exchange between us taking over the maintenance of the Sunrail station and with the exchange of the 98 acres is a good time to do it, and they basically agreed to go ahead and start the process, which we already have. So in the provision of the agreement, the city assumes maintenance of the Sunrail station, the parking lot, and the common areas. There is a joint use agreement with FDOT and Volusia County, and that we would assume that particular agreement from FDOT. And there would be a transfer of responsibility to the city. Now, we're not taking over any of the capital improvements. We'll be taking over just the maintenance and repairs and typically landscaping, et cetera, et cetera. And then once that occurs, then the county will transfer the approximately 98 acres to the city. The costs, the county right now, their budget is $122,000 a year for maintaining the Sunrail station. They use a whole series of contractors. They don't use any employees. And quite frankly, they spend too much money on repairing the Sunrail station. And so one of our strategies is to hire one FTE maintenance worker. It's $55,000 salary and benefits. And they would be part of the Public Works Department. We see that dedicating maybe 10 to 20 hours a week to the Sunrail station, and the remaining balance of their hours would be resourced to whatever other public works work that needs to be done in the city. We do need additional personnel as our responsibilities in the city have grown. Material costs, we figure about $1,500. You got mulch, and generally there, maybe replacing any plants, but they put in Florida native plants. It's sawgrass and everything else. They're pretty hardy, so there's really not a whole lot. And quite frankly, it's mostly weeding and everything else and taking care of the property. And then the pressure washing, and this is probably the most complicated. The canopy that sits over the tracks get a lot of mud daubers on it and everything else. And believe it or not, they replaced it about 10 years ahead of schedule. The pressure washing solution that they used caused more rust. They had to replace the canopy, and so FDOT recommends a certain type of solution. It'd be pressure washed with specific specifications so that this canopy will last a lot longer than it did the first time. They don't have this problem with any others, but ours, because it's so close to the river, seems to get a lot of wear and tear, and so we recommend probably using a professional pressure washing company to do it on a periodic basis to make sure that we meet the FDOT standards. So the benefits, obviously, the Sunrail station is obviously to improve the appearance. I think the last time that we were at the Sunrail station, it didn't look very good. And so we want to make sure that we improve the appearance, make sure it represents the city of DeBary. Number two, obviously, the overflow parking for Main Street and events. There are approximately, we were trying to count all the parking spots. There's 400 to 500 parking spots there. It certainly serves a great resource for us, not only for Main Street, but if we have an event across the street or whatever, it will serve as overflow parking. And then as a possible farmer's market, I mean, I feel really bad that they went out for RFP for a farmer's market, and there were just so many regulations that it made it impossible for a farmer's market to even do business there. And I think it's a great location for a farmer's market. There's parking, there's resources there, and everything else, a room. And I think our community is kind of starving for a farmer's market, one that is consistent. Every Saturday morning, the train station doesn't run on Saturdays right now, but we think it would be an excellent spot for a farmer's market. And so as far as DeBary Central Park, we view this, staff reviews this as a very long-term project. It's something that we don't have to do. Alexander Island, at least in my view, unless you tell me different, is probably a higher priority. And so that's generally where our dollars will go. And when the opportunity arises, et cetera, we might do some tweaking on this particular property as based upon the approved conservation recreation plan. So it does add green space asset to our density around this particular project. Is high density across the street and surrounding this particular property are apartments that are either built or already approved. It is a unique conservation, recreation, and open space. You'll see that our plan here, our staff, we did this in-house. Our staff was extremely creative of some unique things that we can do to tap into some of our kids. A lot of our biking is on paved streets, and so you'll see some mountain biking on this property that will really kind of entice a sector of biking folks that we don't touch currently. So it's also canoe and kayak launch at Mullet Lake, and what's interesting in some of our brainstorming in which we've done, we foresee one day being some races or canoe events or kayak events where you go out Mullet Lake, you go out to DeBary Creek, you go all the way around Lake Monroe, all the way into St. Johns River, and you end up at Alexander Island, and it's about a 5 to 6 mile trek, and fortunately, it's only a mile from where you started from, and so it's kind of unique, and so I think we'll see some kayak and canoe organizations use that once we get it fully developed. Nature trails, their pavilions, their benches, mountain biking there's a track for beginners, and then intermediate, and then the possibility of a mini amphitheater utilizing a floating stage and using the general slopes of the retention pond for obviously for seating. It's something that we take care of the FDOT pond anyway under our maintenance agreement, and so it's something that we can easily maintain. I gave you a bigger picture so that you can see better. And so what you see here, I'll squeeze it on a PowerPoint, but it's Obviously, you see the, up in orange up there on the top are the Integra Apartments. There's a trail that we're currently building that will go from Charles Beal along the north side of the property all the way to Gemini Springs Trail. They call it the county trail, but it's a state trail. And on the north side there, you'll see a walking trail with pavilions and benches. You'll see the parking areas that are in the center part of the property that will be shell. The easement, Volusia County easement, all the way back to the kayak and canoe launch back there is preserved, so that folks can get back to Mullet Lake fairly easily. You see the amphitheater around the FDOT pond, both providing 2 areas of seating. For the possibility maybe one day of having some small little concerts, evening stuff there that can enhance folks to attract them to around the Main Street area. And then on the southern part there, you see the intermediate mountain bike adventure trail that intertwines in between the trees and everything else that I think will be extremely enjoyable. And you see some of the pictures there of some of our envisioning that everything around that particular this particular document shows some of our imagery that we like, and it portrays the conservation part of what we're looking for. And so, Council, we're asking for your approval. Upon your approval of this, just this concept of the conservation and recreation plan for this particular property, we will submit it to Volusia County and the St. Johns Water Management District to adjust the land management plan. And once it's approved by St. Johns Water Management District, then we'll work vigorously with Volusia County to work on taking over the Sunrail Station maintenance and transferring this property to the city of DeBary.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
I love this. I actually think this is going to be sneaky good in the future. I don't know if any of us will still be up here when it kind of comes to all the fruition, but this will be well used, I think, in the future. I know we have Alexander Park for all the nature, and this will probably have all the modern things that people like to do on a weekend for exercise or just some adventure. I really like this. This is a really big piece to the puzzle. So, job well done again.
Councilmember Papalardo?
One of the things I hear a lot in my line of work is an analysis is what gets measured gets done. And I think this is another example of us putting strategy on paper in our goal setting sessions. And we're checking off several boxes here between doing something with the Sunrail, farmers market possibilities, and then more conservation, more outdoor recreation that has minimal impact on the area. Being in control of this 98 acres is very important. I really like how we are finding ways to have more control of the destiny of vacant spaces for a multitude of reasons, but this is such a special project, and hopefully it's not too long-term. Hopefully we can see some results a little bit sooner.
Well, one thing I didn't mention that I forgot there, all the 98 acres here, most of I would say 99% of this property is uplands. There are very little wetlands on this particular property. So.
And uplands are in high demand, and they're scary to let float around.
Yep.
So I really like this plan.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes, I can remember when we were talking about possibly developing this, and that got shot down and everybody protested, but I think that this use as a park will be widely accepted and looked forward to. And I think it's good for the county also. There was a time when our city and citizens were not looking forward to having to take over the Sunrail station maintenance. And here it's the city's going to take it over for less than what we ever used to quote. I think they used to say it was going to be $70,000 or $80,000 a year. So the cost of one staff member is not bad. Speaking of the Sunrail station, though, I noticed that the sign had been knocked over sometime back. that would be, in the future, something like that would be our responsibility to replace, correct?
I believe so. That's a maintenance requirement. And so, yes, but typically those are insurance-related items, and so, yeah, in that regard, yes. I mean,
And
as
is-
far as replacing the canopy, that's going to be FDOT's responsibility.
And did you already kind of get price quotes and lifespan expectancies so that future councils kind of will have, an eye on their budget, like, okay, every 10 years, we need to look forward to doing this, and
Yeah,
certain big items?
Once we get, and I don't know what changes the FDOT is going to make in their maintenance and everything else as it transfers to us, but I expect it to be fairly similar. And Volusia County doesn't do many upgrades to this particular property other than maintaining the landscaping. Now, the capital improvement would be if the parking lot needs to be resurfaced, that's going to be on FDOT. And so we're just doing the maintenance.
Well, that's good. The parking lot that's good. That would have been expensive. What about adding bathrooms? Do you think that would ever, being that we're talking about using it for other purposes, just,
Well, there are some opportunities. The FDOT doesn't have any bathrooms at any stations. For some, that's their philosophy. We've always talked about behind Little Sammy's there's, a half-acre of property there. Some people talked about maybe putting a welcome center on the backside of that or with some bathrooms there to, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a number of different opportunities and we'll see how Main Street works. Unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be any bathrooms on this particular actual site.
okay. I know it's always a popular question for people to ask about the bathrooms, and there are bathrooms on the train.
Right.
But if we're also planning to use this site for other events and overflow and stuff, I guess they could just bring in porta potties,
Yeah.
things like that. But yeah, just wanted to mention that. And then as far as, you mentioned the maintenance for the Sunrail station, but what about the maintenance for the 98 acres? Even if we're not going to do any capital improvements right away, are we going to be mowing or doing anything with monitoring the lake health or anything like that until the development part?
Yeah, we do maintain the FDOT property. Quite frankly, I'll be very honest with you, the county hasn't done much out there at all. I've talked to them many times about taking this property, incorporating it into Gemini Springs, and let's bring Gemini Springs right into downtown. No interest. And so it's just not a high priority for them. Where for us, it's a high priority for us. It's right in the middle of our TOD area. It's high dense. We want to make sure that the people around here have open space to walk their dog, to ride their bike, and really kind of picnic if they want to. So it is going to be a high density area, and this just right in the middle of it. And that's why we kind of dubbed it DeBerry Central Park. You can name it anything you like, but it's a central park to our downtown there where all the residents in that particular area will be able to walk to and enjoy.
Yeah, you've got the name Gemini Springs Park Annex on here, but I like the name DeBerry Central Park better because it does describe, like you said, the TOD area, all of this development, and it's connecting Gemini Springs with the TOD. And I think that anybody who comes on the Sunrail in the future, they're going to have so many choices to go to this park or to go to Alexander Island, to visit Main Street, to visit Gemini. So this is nice. I'm
And
in
the
favor
line
of it.
and the line that goes in and out on the right-hand side, that's actually the actual trail itself, Gemini Springs Trail. And so you'll see a lot of linkages to connect to that, and even adding some benches along that particular trail as well to make it even more pleasing for people who want to participate out there.
All right, thank you. No more questions.
As far as the name Gemini Springs Park Annex, I mentioned this to my daughter who was with FDOT District 5 for many years and now has moved on to a federal role. I said, we're looking at this. She said, that sounds good. I said, it's printed out Gemini Springs Park Annex. I don't know. She said, that's because that's how it's identified in the land records.
Gotcha.
That is an FDOT identification of this parcel. So it wasn't something Carmen thought up. And she's like, well, Mom, it says that because that's how it's identified in the land records.
But we can change it to
Oh,
anything
yeah.
we want later. Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin. Are you on?
I'm on.
Okay.
I want to thank the staff. This is amazing, all the different aspects of what everyone's been asking for, even at Alexander Island. The trails, the natural, I'm liking this. I think the kids are going to love this mountain bike adventure. It all works, it all fits, and it all looks like it should be there already. So it's very exciting to see that this is something that's coming. Yeah, we probably won't see it. I don't know if we'll see it maybe in my lifetime, but
You never know.
you never know. If I hit one of the lottos, maybe I can just do it and say we're done. But I think this is great. I like the cooperative efforts with all parties involved, the exchanges, everything we're working out. So thank you, Carmen. That's been really, a good thing to see in the last couple of years of what's been going on. And taking over Sunrail, it just makes sense. I think doing the maintenance on that, and we have more control over it, especially with Main Street coming in. I think that's a good end factor for us.
Well, and you may remember when we first came on in 2019, the maintenance of the Sunrail station was always been contentious.
It was for 5
For a
years
long time.
prior, and they got our pound of flesh out. They got the pound of flesh out of us in those first couple of years anyway, having to do with refusing to share in the bathrooms at River City Nature Park. That was tied to us not wanting to do maintenance in Sunrail. Maintenance of Sunrail is a monetary thing, and this plan gives us something in exchange. Vice Mayor Butler.
And this is all in connection with Palm Drive, correct?
No.
No.
Nothing's in connection with
No,
Palm Drive?
No.
I only showed the 2 acres of the DeBerry Town Center LLC
Okay.
just on the map, just to show you
Just to
that
show,
that
okay.
2 acres, even though it's part of this parcel, will
It's
not be part of this parcel
Part of this work.
once the
Okay.
exchange occurs.
I think it's great, the fact, once we get that done with the four-way intersection at Fort Florida, people will have access to this, and if we do a bridge over, that would even be better with bikes and blah, blah, blah. I know Mayor's shaking her head, and I'm going, all right. So I think it's great, and I think the staff did a good job in presenting this. I love all the aspects of what's out there, and I think it's great. I'm from New York. Central Park has always been good.
Okay. I really like this, and I like the exchange. DeBerry has held out ever since Sunrail has opened to get the right kind of deal if we are to take over the maintenance. And at this point, we do have a reason to use the lot. We didn't in the early years. And it has a monetary value. And the county has, in the back and forth, as I alluded, not cooperated with us on some things where they rightfully could have or should have. And it has always been a bone between the county and the city, even as the county and the city work together so much better than they did for so many years. And we've had productive partnerships with the county in many other areas for the last several years. This continues it, and this use of the property makes so much sense. And now we have a reason, a motivation, both getting control of passive uses of this property in the middle of our densely populated area in town, and the control of being able to use the Sunrail station and have the say-so as to whether special events or parking is allowed there. The county has, as part of their agreement, has controlled that. And so I think this is win-win. I like a lot of the ideas that are here. I do think that you were saying, unless we say this is greater priority than Alexander Island, you know where I come down on that? Alexander Island is the first priority. We need to get the public access, and we don't have access. And we need some amenities there so that they can enjoy it. But some of these things, first of all, you don't have to do a whole plan all at once.
Right.
So many of us like this mountain bike adventure trail. And that with just access in along the retention pond with a few parking spaces, not the whole build out, might even be a unit that could be done in the reasonable future. 4 or 5 years or something. You could introduce some of these things in phases. In Alexander Island, we anticipate 2 major phases. And we're trying to get the first phase done so that we can open the gates and the people can enjoy what their money bought. But then we could, even simultaneously with phase 2, perhaps with other funding sources, do something like just the mountain bike adventure trail, and then add the other pieces over time. We could then say the second piece might be the kayak, which we already have access all the way down there. Second piece might be the kayak thing, which would open up the park-to-park kinds of events for kayak and canoe enthusiasts. There are ways to do this without putting it off for 20 years. But the first step, of course, is continuing the negotiations, filing the proposed plan, getting all the authorities in line, and striking this simultaneous agreement with the county and St. John's. So I'm very supportive of moving forward with this, and appreciate all the hard work, both on Carmen's part, but also, Jason, your staff, of trying to imagine what would work there, what would be additive to what we already have in DeBary. And this, to me, is a lot of additive things. So I appreciate that. You can convey that to staff that worked on it as well. If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the proposed DeBary Central Park Conservation and Recreation Concept Plan.
Second.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. And this brings us to reports and communications. Councilmember Sell, do you have anything to report or discuss?
I do not.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yeah, on Friday, I went to the donut fundraiser at the High Banks Learning Center, and I helped take a few orders. Those donuts were excellent. They were gigantic.
Yes.
From Donut Ask, Donut Tell.
Yes.
Great name. And then on Saturday, I went to the hazardous waste pickup at City Hall. Mm-hmm. Very well coordinated. I was there very
Extremely
early,
well.
and there was like nobody there because it was.
Yeah.
I broke the doors down, I think. But yeah, great events last weekend.
Wonderful. Councilmember Stevenson?
Thank you, Mayor. On just the other day, October 16th, was National Feral Cat Day. And National Feral Cat Day was established in 2001 to bring awareness about feral cats and to promote TNR. Obviously, our city already has a great TNR program. And we were able to rescue 5 little kittens the other day right here in DeBary. Somebody had called a friend and pointed them to one of our TNR volunteers because they were little baby kittens in the engine of their vehicle. So if everybody could remember, when you're going out and it's these cold mornings, kind of knock on the hood of your car, tap, try and spook out any cats or kittens that might be sleeping in there. It could be saving their lives. And then give us a call so that we can TNR the mom. So that's what we're trying to do. The kittens are safe in a foster, and we're trying to catch the mom so she doesn't have any more. So happy National Feral Cat Day. A couple days belated, but it's National Feral Cat Day for me every day, I guess.
Yes.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the River City Food Truck event on Friday night, 2 weeks ago now, and the kids were having such a ball with hula hoops and dancing in the streets. It was wonderful to see. It was a beautiful night. I also was at the Donut Ask, Donut Tell event, schlepping donuts. My fingers, was up to my elbows in frosting. Good thing it wasn't sunny out. It was warm, so everything was like melting. But if it had been sunny, I would have been, it was up to my elbows in chocolate and all kinds of.
Is that good?
It was, but they were delicious and they were great. I also went to the Florida League of Cities Committee 2 Fridays ago, I guess, already. And we are really seriously putting our policies together for water quality. So, and then this PACE policy that's coming out, I don't know if you're aware, but Will Roberts, our tax collector, just won a case on that, so we're working on all that legislatively and stuff like that in my committee. And I want to congratulate the citizens of DeBary for their vote on the Christmas parade through the decades. So that's going to be exciting to see what people can come up with. I hope we have a good variety, and I feel bad that Clayton didn't get to be a part of it, but I think he'll be a part of it no
He
matter
might.
what. He might just show
He
up
might.
somewhere. You never
His
know.
decades are decades and decades
and
ago.
There's dinosaurs decades ago, so that's it for me. Huh?
800 votes?
Wow.
That's great.
Great. And that's it for me. I'm done.
Okay. I attended the ribbon cutting for the new office for the Hispanic Chamber. It's in Deltona, very nice office. And I will mention that they have built and furnished the space in such a way that there are daily, weekly, monthly availabilities if somebody needs a temporary office. It's a nice space, and they will be very flexible with it. They have a small conference room. They have a classroom with maybe 15 seats or something. It's a very adaptable space that will serve more than their immediate needs. And I recalled something where we had a resident not long ago had an issue trying to work from home during the day, and one of our rental pumps was intruding on their work life. And it occurred to me when I saw those spaces that if we ever had a situation like that, that would be a very minimal thing that we could offer somebody that we were inconveniencing and having difficulty with doing something that is normally what they do in their home for the public good, which is we have to run the pump. I just mentioned that in case you know people who might need, it can be a day, it can be a week, it can be a month. But it's a professional space, very nicely furnished with new furnishings that were donated by an organization to the charity, to the chamber as part of their support of the new headquarters. I also took part in the bi-monthly mayor's call. These are all the mayors for Volusia County, where we discussed this being the time we're heading into the legislative season, the kinds of things that each of us are concerned about moving into the legislative season, and compared some notes. I am spending a good bit of time talking to this party or the other about the ramifications of the Live Local Act, as is our city manager. It seems that DeBary is sort of at the forefront of understanding how the law is constructed and how it translates into projects in cities and counties. And one piece that has been ignored by a lot of folks is the tax part. And that is crucial because it's an economic threat to the rest of the city if a development comes in and they will have either 75% or 100% tax exemption for 30 years. Because they need services. So who will pay for those services? Well, the existing taxpayers seem like the only source to pay for that. And that will put pressure on millage in every jurisdiction. So, but this piece seems to have been missed by a number of people who have at least a cursory understanding. There are many good things in the bill, and we don't want to miss that part either. But the things that are concerning are significant, and we're taking an active role in our interactions, me as mayor, Carmen as city manager, any one of you who want to engage with people in your sphere of influence to explain what it is, how it translates, and we will be actively lobbying for some tweaks to the bill, hopefully to mitigate some of what we see could be very problematic. To that end, I did have a video call the beginning of the week with the mayor of Doral. If you followed this in the news, you may see that Doral acted 3 or 4 months ago, and that the mayor of Doral has taken the forefront in southern Florida about explaining how Live Local has a negative impact in the sections of the bill that we are concerned about, the law that we're concerned about. I thought it was very productive. The city manager and the director of government affairs communications was with me as well. We had a very good exchange, and I think that multiple efforts are going to be needed to raise the profile of what is in this legislation and how it will affect municipalities and counties and school boards across the state of Florida. So just mention that as it's, those kinds of discussions are taking up more of my time recently. City manager. I'm sorry, I forgot one thing.
Sure.
Today I received a letter from the operations manager of Volusia Growth Management Commission, and you may recall that Sid Valine has been our representative there, and in fact, he has served as chairman for quite some time. And it says, Dear Mayor Chazet, at the beginning of September, at the September 27th, 2023 regular meeting of the Volusia Growth Management Commission, the annual election of officers was held. Sid Valine Jr. has served as chairman of VGMC for the past 4 years and is no longer eligible to serve another term as chair. However, I am pleased to inform you that the members of the commission unanimously elected Mr. Valine to the office of secretary. In this office, Mr. Valine also serves as chair of the VGMC Budget Committee. Mr. Valine has represented the city of DeBary for approximately 8 years and continues to bring valuable leadership, knowledge, and expertise to the commission. He is highly regarded by the staff and the other members of the commission, as demonstrated by their confidence in electing him to serve as secretary. From a personal perspective, I have had the pleasure of working very closely with Mr. Valine during his term as chair, and I appreciate his dedication and responsiveness to the day-to-day business of the commission. We certainly appreciate Mr. Valine's willingness to serve in the office of secretary and look forward to working under his continued leadership. Sincerely, Mary Smith, operations manager. I had it right in front of me, and I meant to share that. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. One, I do have the statistics from the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day. 362 residents stopped by. One full 30-yard roll-off full of tires.
Wow.
5,200 pounds of paint. 250 light bulbs, 127 lead-acid batteries totaling 4,445 pounds. 990 pounds of reused chemicals, 39 propane tanks, 35 gallons of antifreeze, 110 gallons of gasoline, and 290 gallons of used oil were all collected
By noon, right?
by noon. And so we're planning on having another one. Volusia County was so impressed with how well it went and everything. That we're going to do another one on March 2024. So stay tuned.
I think that's good. We had a very long span where
Yeah.
we didn't, and people had been waiting for this one. So we may have lower numbers in the spring, but it does speak to the cooperation of our residents and not just dumping this into the trash can and closing the lid and hoping for the best.
Yes.
Which we do not want to see.
Yes. Just to give you some dates, October 24th is the Volusia delegation, legislative delegation. We'll be presenting there not only on our legislative concepts, but also on the Live Local Act. On October 26th, presenting to the League of Volusia League of Cities as well on the Live Local Act, and then heading to Tallahassee November 13th through the 15th, specifically to solicit a revision bill on the Live Local Act. So we're very active, and I'll. Mayor is correct. We are in the forefront of much of this. We're actually educating other cities on their risk assessments and everything else, and the business approach that they need to take. And so it's an important bill. And if you prefer, I can certainly do a full-fledged presentation to council either November 1st or at the November 15th meeting, whatever you prefer. Make a presentation so that all of us can be on the same page on all the details of this particular bill.
I think that my preference would be November 1st before you go to Tallahassee, and then on the mid-November meeting, if you could, you will be back, so you could tell us sort of what the lay of the land is.
Okay?
That would be my preference. What is your thoughts?
I think that'd be great.
Okay. I think that we also should perhaps promote that agenda item more than we do individual agenda items over time. That will not take the place of a community workshop, but it will begin to start the conversation with our people who are more actively involved, who may see it's something that they want to come and listen to understand.
And we're also drafting an article to go in the newsletter, which will be coming out here the next few weeks, that kind of specifies everything in the Live Local Act, that, because if our residents want to correspond with legislators and everything else, we'll have them educated enough to be able to do that.
Right, and I should note that because next year's an election year, a lot of the preparatory work is taking place in November, getting ready for the session in January. So those who think that you can shoot a little email off to your representative in January, you surely can. It's not likely to have much impact when they're midstream in meeting and voting and passing things through committees. November, December is probably your best chance to get a reasonable consideration of whatever it is you choose to say.
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
City Attorney, would you like to report?
City Attorney's Office has nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Hearing nothing in addition, we stand adjourned.